Deafrowe with Deafrowe TV, and I'm back again with another review. And as you can see by the title screen up here, the movie that I'm going to be reviewing today is Beowulf. This is the Beowulf from 1999, one that you might not have heard of. But before I get started on this review, remember to like, subscribe, and share. Hit that notification bell if you want to see more obscure movies that I find and review, or maybe ones you just haven't heard of that not really obscure, but they're easy to find and watch somewhere. So let's get started on this review of the 1999 movie Beowulf, starring none other than Christopher Lambert as Beowulf, Rona Mitra as Kira, Oliver Cotton as Hrothgar, Goetz Otto as Roland, Charles Robinson as the Weapons Master, and of course various other characters, but I'm just going to stick with those main ones for right now. At the very beginning of this movie, you will see a young woman that is trying to get away from here, and she is caught by these almost like this army that's outside the this outpost is what they call it in this movie. Is really it's a castle that has been turned into an outpost. And this woman, if she looks familiar, it is Patricia. Let's say her last name correctly is Velasquez. Patricia Velasquez. If she looks familiar, she's from the Mummy 2. If I remember correctly, either Mummy, the first Mummy, or Mummy 2. Anyway, she plays a character named Pendra, and basically this army that is outside this outpost castle is killing anybody that tries to escape the castle because it is cursed, and therefore anyone that comes away from that castle is also cursed. And so what they do is they put them on this little platform right here and cut them in half and put them up on a post as a warning to others to stay out. And so that's kind of how she ends up right here, because she tried to escape the castle, and now they're going to cut her in half with something that looks like a damn razor blade to shave with, but it's like times 100 in size. And it's kind of funny looking when you see it. I hear the leaders of this group outside the castle slash outpost, and they're not taking anybody alive that comes out of that outpost, and basically just killing her. And as you can see here, here's that that blade I'm talking about. It looks like a huge razor blade. Let's see if I can get a better shot of it. And you see, she's like, "Oh no, they're gonna." Anyway, and then in comes Beowulf. He's actually headed to the castle, and he sees what's going on. He's like, "Hey, you need to let her go," or And they say no. He says, "Okay, I'll just kick your ass now." So he proceeds to just kick everybody's ass one by one that's in the crowd. Why they don't just like gain up on him, I don't know. But he is able to get her loose from the table or whatever, and she's like cowering underneath the table while he's still like murderizing everybody around him. Anyway, and finally the main guy here. Just kidding. His little just kidding things that, Christopher Lambert does, his little jokes. Anyway, the main guy, the leader of these people on the outside, he tells them, like, go on your way. We don't, take her with you, whatever. And so, yeah, at first, they think he's going to, take her into the woods and leave the place. But he is actually headed towards the castle. And then, um, so as he's headed to the castle, he's asking the one, Pendra, like, what the information about what's going on inside. And then she's telling him and all this stuff. As she's telling him, she's realizing I don't want to go back in there, so she jumps off the horse and basically runs back towards the guys that were going to kill her, and they kill her. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but let's see. Yeah, you can see here. So right after Beowulf saves her, she decides to jump off the horse and run back towards this army standing outside the outpost castle, and they proceed to kill her. So, so what they didn't do on the chopping board, they just went ahead and did it right there when she ran back to him. So, and he was like, "Well, shit, what did I save her for?" So he heads into the castle to find it because he's basically drawn to this castle by the dark entity that has been dwelling over this castle and killing everybody, which is basically Grendel, the monster that's going around killing everybody in this outpost slash castle. And I say this, this is kind of a weird movie, to be honest with you. It's a very what do you call it, steampunk, medieval stylized movie because there's like tidbits of technology that you wouldn't see in a medieval movie. Obviously, the furnaces, the megaphones, and the all this other stuff. They have like phones and that kind of thing throughout the castle. So it's very steampunkish slash medieval. And then whenever there's like a fight scene or something in this movie, there's like a lot of techno music behind it. It's like just going off like something out of kind of something like out of a movie that Chris Lambert had done before, like Mortal Kombat. That type of music is playing whenever there's a fight scene or whatever. It's funny. It's almost a little bit out of place in some parts too. So I'm not sure if that was quite what they were going for, but it is what it is. And he finally meets up with the leader of this castle slash outpost, which is Hrothgar, and Hrothgar is telling him about the people. We have basically less than 40 men left overall from when all this started, and so yeah. So he finally meets up with the weapons master or the nephew to the weapons master here, and they're going over the different things that he has unloading from his pockets because he has a lot of steampunk type gadgets. I mean, in a lot of ways, the weaponry reminds me of the Van Helsing movie that they did in the mid 2000s, maybe late 2000s, with the weaponry the way it is. It's very steampunkish looking weaponry. And you'll see when you see some of the stuff he pulls out, it's like insane looking, really. And then we get to see Rona Mitra's character, Kira, finally meets up with Beowulf. And Kira is the daughter of Hrothgar. So she's basically like the princess of the movie. And she apparently had a husband at one time that she was married off to as part of the deal with her father and another outpost. And he has passed on for some odd reason, and they think that's. And some of the people in the outpost think that she's the reason this place is cursed, when it's really not her at all. Um, and then for some reason, she thinks that he's there because he's drawn to evil because of her, untold secrets that she hasn't, let on about. And of course, you have Roland, which is the leader of the army for her dad, who's in love with her as well. But she only treats him like a brother. So she approaches Beowulf almost like he's like this mystical being that's it's like, how do you know to be here? What are you doing here? All this other stuff. And yeah, very beautiful woman, Rona Mitra, in this movie. Well, in every movie she's ever been in, but especially this one. So let's keep going, shall we? So they're talking about the weapons room and how it used to be her ex-husband's favorite place to be, all this other stuff. Yeah, he goes outside to see Roland. He's like messing around with his troops, doing a little bit of training, and hardly any of them can stand up. They're so tired because they've been keeping an eye out for this monster night and day. And so he's basically setting them up to train with him. It's like but he doesn't know when to quit. And then got Beowulf just kind of looking over the whole ordeal. Yeah, okay. Go back just a little bit. Then you see this is the weapons master played by Charles Robinson. If you recognize him, you probably recognize him from the TV show Night Court. And now you make the jump from Night Court to Beowulf. I'm not quite sure, especially a steampunk version of Beowulf. So, but there you go. He's roaming the hallways at this point, and he had just left the weapons master place, and Grendel is kind of stalking him. Then we end up at the dining hall where we see Beowulf eating. Basically, there's no food coming in or out of the outpost because of the army outside. So as you can see here, they're eating out of these tins and stuff that are basically it's rations that they have stored for many years in such cases as such as this, but they're starting to run low on that as well. As you can see, they're kind of skimpy. And yeah, speaking of skimpy, she shows up in this amazing looking dress, to be honest with you, for just sitting down for dinner. I don't know if I can catch a picture of that. So there we go. Yeah, as you can see here, she walks in with this thing on, basically. It looks like saying, Rona Mitra was, bringing it, I guess you could say, before there was ever a Underworld movie. Since this was filmed in 1999, Ronald Mitchell was, bringing it with the, I guess, lingerie wear. I don't know what you would call it. I mean, she was wearing leather a lot in this movie, and then she's wearing stuff like this in this movie. Way before, it was done in Underworld. And then she went on to actually play a main character in one of the Underworld movies. So, good for her. Awesome in this movie, to be honest with you. Anyway, let's keep going. Yeah, she's there again. She's talking to him about, you know, he basically asks Hrothgar, like, will your wife be joining us, during this dinner? And he tells him, my wife, fell off one of the balconies of this outpost when we first got in here because she wasn't familiar with the place. And that's the excuse that he uses. And then we find, like I said before, the weapons master was being stalked in the hallway by Grendel. And we finally see him kind of meet his end a little bit here. He's been splayed open, and they find him in the hallway. And at the time, like Beowulf is sitting at the table before this happened, he kind of senses Grendel nearby, and that's when they kind of hear the scream, and then they hear that they find the weapons master in the hallway, spliced open by Grendel and dead. So yeah, and then he's kind of talking with Hrothgar and ends up talking with Roland for a little bit. And Beowulf is trying to explain to Roland, said, we're going to need each other if we want to make it through this. And then Roland's like, no, I can do this myself. And so they start fighting each other. And it was kind of Roland's way of seeing where his might stood or whatever. And Roland kind of gives him the respect after this little fight. And Beowulf just basically tells him, like, look, I was easy on you because I need your help in this fight, so don't push your luck or whatever. And Roland gives him the respect that he's due for that, getting his ass kicked or whatever. And finally, we see Hrothgar in the middle of the night. He's sleeping and everything, and you see Grendel's mother sneaking up on him at night, trying to get a little Humpty Hump out of him. While he's asleep, I mean, why don't you wake him up? You might enjoy it. You never know. Not really. It's Grendel's mother, obviously. And he basically has he's dreaming about his wife that killed herself and Grendel's mother being pregnant. And he sees that the reason in his dreams that his wife didn't just fall as an accident, but she actually committed suicide jumping off the building because she saw that Grendel's mother was pregnant with Grendel at the time, and it was Hrothgar's child. And yeah, so that was the reason. And then, of course, they're putting the weapons master in the furnace. They cremate all the bodies in this movie. and his nephew standing by his side and everything. That's kind of a funny scene right here where Carl walks into the weapons master place, and he's like, "Of all the places, of all the crazy ways I could die, I don't want to be by a heart attack." Scared the crap out of him coming in there. And so yeah, so finally things are coming to a head at some point, and he tells them to put all the women and children in the sanctuary to keep them protected because I think Grendel's coming out during the daytime now because he's getting tired of playing the game at night. But as soon as they put him in the sanctuary, Grendel comes in there and kills all the people they just put in the sanctuary. And so you got what Beowulf here, like basically having to climb up through a window because they locked everything from the inside. And they find everybody dead in the inside, and then that's when they all decide to try to figure out if Grendel is in there. Of course he is because he killed everybody, but then they don't know where he is. So you got Kira, Beowulf, and Hrothgar in this scene. You see Hrothgar's sword is like this weird ass, big ass blade that looks like a chainsaw blade. I mean, it is nuts. That's what I'm saying. They got this. They went hardcore on the steampunk weaponry in this movie. I mean, I I have yet to see another movie with a weird blade like that. It looks like a damn. I mean, obviously it's not a chainsaw, but the way the blade is cut up, it makes it look like a chainsaw. And so yeah, they're looking through the area for Grendel. They know he's in there, and Grendel's kind of sneaking up, and then finally Grendel lashes out at Beowulf and the rest of them. And Beowulf is doing all these weird, flips and tricks, and jumping up on the rafters and all this other stuff to try to get a basically get a one up on Grendel. But he's able to wound Grendel at this time, but it doesn't do much to stop him. And then Grendel ends up wounding him real badly across the chest to the point that everybody thinks he's going to die. Even Kira, which is in there changing his bandages, comes out and is talking to Roland, and Roland's like, what's happening to him? And he's like, he's dying. Well, she thinks he's dying because the wound is pretty deep or whatever. And then Roland's like, well, he saved my life. And she's like, the only reason I'm still here is because of you. And Kira's like, yeah, I know. But Kira only sees Roland as like more like a brother figure than more than like a romantic figure. Anyway, she walks off, and he's basically standing guard in front of Beowulf's little room because he feels like he owes Beowulf his life at this point, and he's giving Beowulf even more respect in that regard. And so the night goes on. Grendel's mom visits again. He wakes up, blah blah blah, as you can see. And then all of a sudden, Kira wakes up from her nap. She's basically been like staying close to Beowulf because she feels somewhat responsible for him being there. And she wakes up, and he's already out of the bed, getting dressed, getting ready to the fight again. And she's like, "How in the hell how's he even up at this point?" And then she realizes, he's almost completely healed from the wound that Grendel gave him across the chest. And she's like, "How did that happen?" He's like, "Well, I just healed fast." And she's like, "No, I want the real story. Like, what is your real story? How did this happen, or whatever?" And then in the final moments outside, before they have to fight Grendel again, he's talking to Hrothgar, and they're talking, just shooting the shit, and basically like, you know, can you be evil if you're always fighting evil? Can evil fight evil? And all this other stuff. And Beowulf says later on too is like the only way I keep the evil from taking my body over is if I fight evil, and that's what he feels like. And yeah, Roland's talking to him like something's not right with all this, and the creature will not fight Hrothgar because obviously we know the story of Beowulf. Grendel is Hrothgar's uh, son, and for some reason Hrothgar has been keeping Roland from, you know, going after Grendel, but also Roland lets Beowulf know that Kira is like a sister to him, but the ex-husband was a abuser, and he actually challenged the ex-husband, which he's saying right here. He actually challenged the bastard to the fight, but Hrothgar made me back off because he didn't like the husband, and he actually wanted to kill the husband. So he never got the chance because the accident, which ended up not being an accident. You find out later. So then he's talking with Kira here, and Kira finally tells him like what exactly happened. And then at this point, Kira is finding out more about Hrothgar, which is her dad, and like what he has done. And this is the point where Beowulf is setting up a trap for Grendel in this weird ass room of some sort. And he had the weapons master make him like a weapon that attaches to his arm and it folds out and it's like this huge blade looking thing, almost like a spear on the end of your hand. And he goes into this room basically as a way to draw Grendel out. The rest of them are waiting in the dining hall for him. And he's fighting Grendel. As you can see here, he finally gets Grendel close enough, and he takes that blade. I don't know if you're gonna see it right here. Yeah, you see it here, and starts stabbing him under, basically like in the armpit area, to rip that one arm off. And he finally gets him to rip. He finally rips that one arm off, and he presumes him to be dead because he's gonna bleed out from such a big wound like that. Brings the arm into the dining hall and lands it on the floor. And is like, I took care of your creature. And then they end up hanging the arm up outside the castle, as you see here. And you see the people that have been surrounding this castle outpost this whole time. They see with their little telescope right here. I'm going to move it back just a little bit so you can see what they're seeing. If I can get a good shot of it. So yeah, I think you just take a look at this, sir, and he gives him the telescope to look at. And then he looks at it and sees that it's the actual arm of the beast, as if they had killed the beast. So he says, well, wrap up everything, we're leaving. So basically, they were there just to take care of any people that were trying to get away from the cursed place without taking care of the curse. It's like, damn, dude. And so now that they presume that the curse is over with and that the creature has been taken care of, and that at this outpost, they're moving on somewhere else. But that's all it took. That was kind of a weird aspect of this movie, to be honest with you. But it is what it is, I guess you could say. And about this time, everybody's celebrating that they've killed Grendel or whatever, and Kira comes in there and finally fesses up to. She thinks in order to get Beowulf's secret, she has to give up her secret, and she was worried that the evil presence that he was attracted to was her because she feels such guilt for. Basically, she ended up killing her own husband one night in a fury because he had come in there beating the shit out of her and was going to rape her, and then she decided she wasn't going to take it anymore and took a dagger and stabbed him over and over and over again. And so she, you know, tells Beowulf this, admits it all and everything. Like, well, that's not evil. You basically, how can you be doing evil if you're fighting evil? And that's where it goes. It comes full circle to what he was talking about with Hrothgar. If you're fighting evil, are you evil yourself? And that's what he tries to say. He's like, sometimes I think I'm, and he tells her, he's like, sometimes I think I'm fighting evil in order to keep the evil inside me out or in. And then he goes on to tell her about where he thinks he came from and why he is the way he is. And he thinks like his mother made love with a deity named Baal. And when he was born, she passed away. And then so all these clerics or whatever think that he's this product of this deity making love to his mother. And so yeah, they basically do their own little celebration, if you get my drift. And everybody else is celebrating in the dining hall. Even Roland is into it. But then Grendel's mother shows up. Grendel's mother decides to try to get over on Roland, and of course, it works. And Grendel's mother ends up killing everybody in the dining hall, including Rothgar. And these two are the only two left, pretty much. And of course, they got just finished doing what they were doing, their own little celebration. And that this is the part where he tells her about where he thinks he came from, or where the people that should know think he came from. But yeah, so anyway, he senses something finally, and he thinks he senses something a little bit older, subtler than the Grendel. And that's when they figure out, they get to the dining hall, and everybody except for Rothgar somewhat is still alive. And you finally see Grendel's mother show herself, and she's like, "I'm here to take you all out." And that's where you find out that Grendel wasn't completely killed, and he still has one arm. So Grendel gets a hold of his dad, I guess you could say, and just squeezes him to death with one arm. But then, yeah, as you see, kind of a cool looking suit knocks out Kira here. Ooh, does a backflip, grabs a sword, stabs it into his big wound, gaping wound, and kills Grendel right in front of his mom. And he's using Roland's sword here, by the way, which is pretty cool. He's like taking revenge using Roland's sword. Anyway, kills Grendel, and then finally the mom freaks out, and she's like, you're just like me and all this stuff. You're just trying to keep it under wraps and whatever. And he's like, no, I'm nothing like you. So she tries to entice him to come over to the dark side, I guess you could say, but it doesn't work. And so she changes into her real form, which is like some weird ass spider looking thing. See if I can get a good shot of it. Some of the CGI doesn't look all that great. I mean, this is 1999, but yeah, you can see right here. But the close-ups where you actually see her face in the makeup and stuff looks pretty damn awesome. So it's like it's a mix of the two. They did CGI, but they also did makeup effects, especially for her face, to get the creature to look right. So if I can find it, yeah. So you see here, like the close-ups and stuff, it's obviously makeup effects. I'm saying this is not CGI. They didn't have the technology to do this close of a view of somebody in CGI in 1999, obviously. And unless you were doing the Matrix, even that was sketchy. So anyway, yeah, the makeup effects looks pretty damn awesome. But like when you veer back a little bit and see the CGI, it's not what it's cracked up to be. Anyway, so they fight. He does a bunch of flippity flips and all this other stuff, and then he finally gets the sword and slashes. He realizes early on when he cut her with something else that her blood is flammable, and so at this point she's got him in a chokehold of some sort. And he finally gets a sword up and then slashes her throat right here, takes the flame and throws it at her way. Because like in this entire castle, like it's a steampunk castle to the extreme, man. I mean, they got furnaces, they got gas, they got everything like you would see in something steampunk. And so that's what he does. He basically busts a line that was like had that little torch on the wall that had gas going to it, and he broke it open to make it, spring out onto her as he cut her throat open. And like I said, she's flammable, so her blood lights up on fire and she dies. And of course, there's a shot of the castle as it's falling in on itself because everybody's dead except for them two. And then they decide to ride off together pretty much. He's like, I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know what I'll find when I get there. You're welcome to come with me, but I don't suggest it. And she's like, well, it seems like the best place to be is to be with you because you seem like you can sense all the evil. And she's like, well, I'll take that. I'll take the chance of going with you or whatever. So yeah, and then that's pretty much the end of the movie. Graham Baker of the movie Beowulf, 1999. Now I will have to say this is not it's not a great movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I do like some of the roles in this movie, especially the one played by Rona Mitra. Gotta say, she's a very, very beautiful actress. One of probably 10 out of 10 when it comes to actors, in my opinion, and the way she holds herself and everything. So, yeah, I'm gonna give it a whole star just for that by itself. So, this is a rewatchable movie for me. I like the music, the techno music, even though it doesn't really fit. But I'm gonna give this a 3 star. For me, and it's gonna be a low rad on critic list as well. I mean, this is a low 3 star. This ain't a high 3 star, so it's probably gonna be right around 60%, 62% on critic list. Very low 3 star, but it gets what it can get. I give it whatever I can give it because I grew up with this movie. I mean I was I want to say I was right at 17, 18 years old when this movie came out. And I thought it was the weirdest thing ever, having all this steampunk stuff and this techno music and all this other crazy stuff. I mean, and then this was only 4 years after the 1995 Mortal Kombat too, so that kind of stuff was still fresh in my mind. So this movie wasn't too far off the beaten path, if you get my drift. But it is what it is. I loved it. Still love it to this day. And that's my review. And that's me, Deafrowe, out.